Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Colts Coffee and Conversation. My name is Carl.
And I'm Holly.
I'd like to welcome you back to another interesting edition to Colts Coffee and Conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed MLab. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Once again, Holly, thank you for sharing your personal experiences.
You're welcome.
Excellent. We do appreciate that. Now, before we get into the deep, dark conversation of who we're talking about, we must first do a few things. One, the disclaimer. We are just normal, standard, bystander people. We go to work every day. We now work Monday through Friday.
Woohoo!
Yay! Hooray! But yes, very grateful. Anyway, we're just normal people. These are our personal opinions. This is for entertainment purposes only. If you don't like it, you can just shut us off. But if you do love us, please give us 5 stars. You can reach us on any device that has podcast icon. We are there at Colts Coffee and Conversation. Please rate us 5 stars. Please, I'm begging you, leave feedback. We are craving feedback. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you like. We want to know even what you dislike. I'll admit it. I'll read the ones that are negative. I don't care. But let us know. We need the feedback. Anyway, if you want to reach us, we do have, of course, our Facebook fan page at Colts Coffee and Conversation. We have our Instagram, Colts Coffee Convo. We have our Twitter at Colts Coffee Con1. That's C-O-N as in Nancy 1. And, of course, we have Colts Coffee Convo at gmail.com. And, of course, we do have the voicemail, Holly?
Yes, well, you can get your voice memo on your iPhone. It is an iPhone world. We're only renting.
Yes.
That's what you said?
Samsung's only renting. That's correct.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, you get your voice memo. You can make your comment and send it off using our email.
At coltscoffeeconvo at gmail.com.
That's it.
Alrighty. Okay. You ready to get into these lovely people?
I think so, but one more thing we need to do.
What is one more thing we need to do? Oh, yes. Before we get into the conversation, before we talk about our next cult, we must discuss our coffee. Holly, what coffee are you partaking today?
I have an iced caramel macchiato.
Oh, I guess we're on the iced car because I'm having just a straight up iced coffee with milk. Plain, delicious, no sugar. Life is good. Alrighty, enough with the coffee. Let's get into the conversation about our cult. Are you ready, Holly?
I am ready.
Alright, let's talk about these two people that I totally do not like. I'm not a fan of these people, even when they were doing good or they in their prime. They creeped me out, quite frankly. We're going to be talking about Tony and Susie Alamo. And the Tony Alamo Foundation.
Well, originally it was the Tony and Susan Alamo Foundation.
Yes, but of course in modern times, modern days, it's the Tony Alamo Foundation. We will break it down piece by piece. Now, we're going to be doing it differently. We've had doing this different type of format. Normally, we did the Wild Wild Country. Kind of did an overview of it. A little bit of digging here, a little bit of digging there. We're kind of going to go that route, not more of the Jonestown or the MLab.
There's a special, right, on Sundance Channel?
That's correct. We are watching the special on the Sundance Channel. I highly recommend that you watch it. I believe it's called The Ministry of Evil. I believe it's what it's called.
Yes, it's actually hashtag Ministry of Evil.
Oh, hashtag Ministry of Evil. That's what we're going to be covering, guys. We're going to go, of course, every week. We're going to do our commentary on this, of course. We've watched it at least twice. Really plain and simple, to be honest with you. It's not a lot going on as far as when we're comparing cults here with Wild Wild Country. There was a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
It's a lot of background, a lot of stuff. These guys are pretty much plain and simple. We're going to get, of course, into the early life a little bit as well. We're kind of just going to go play by play what we saw on television. Of course, I have some very entertaining and sarcastic things to say about these folks.
Yes, we would like to go deep into them, but I think what we're going to do is just go by episode off of the special.
Yes.
And then on our wrap-up show, if we feel that there's some things that need to be brought out, we can do that.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so you're ready to talk about Tony and Susie Alamo.
Yes.
Alrighty, okay. So, special starts. Of course, I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am.
I was very curious. Needs to say, a few of our fans actually told us that we had to do this. We do have a couple people that do listen that we know in person and that are quite fans. We do appreciate that. Thank you so much. It was brought to my attention via text and also in person. And the funny thing is that even Holly texted me this as well, all within a span of about a few hours. So, yeah, needless to say, we got a bunch of good fans out there, and Holly's on top of it as well. I was like, I've never heard of these people before.
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have. I haven't. I was like, who the heck is this guy? One looks like a strung out looking Janis Joplin, and another one looks like a fat Elvis. So I was like, okay, this nice little picture that was sent to me, it looked super creepy. All right, let's take a look. Well, before we get into the show on the Sundance, we actually did a little backup homework on this. YouTube had a little special, or it was on YouTube that I watched.
Yes, it was on YouTube. It's about an hour.
It's about an hour or so, where they're talking about just Tony Alamo. Susie, they weren't so much into detail on it. So me going into this after you guys told me about it, was that, okay, I'll watch this, take a look at it, see what I like. Automatically, I hated Tony. Didn't like him at all. Not a fan. I'm expecting something of the same thing when we're talking about the Wicked Belief. No, wait, what's the show called again?
Ministry of Evil.
Ministry of Evil, thank you. Ministry of Evil. And I'm thinking, all right, so he took advantage of this lady whose name is Sue. Okay, so she's a sweetheart. He's just the abusive dude. Okay. No. Completely, I was hoodwinked, as they say, because she's just as guilty as he is. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, of course, the credits start happening. I'm super excited to watch. Holly's super excited to watch. We actually watched it separately, and we watched it together as well. And sure enough, the first thing that comes out is in the background is that we thought that Tony and Susie were our gods. So once that's said, that's what I said. I was like, oh baby, my knees got goosebumps. And then of course it opens up to the raid. The raid, of course, it happened to September. I think it was 2nd.
No, it's September 20th.
20th. That's right. September 20th, 2008. So obviously this is within the last 10 years or so.
Yes.
It was a 2-year FBI investigation.
There was a 2-year FBI investigation regarding child pornography.
Yeah. So of course I went, oh my gosh, oh, this is going to be interesting. I got suckered again because the next thing that popped up was 40 years earlier. I was like, oh man.
So yeah, they actually are going to do the background on how this thing all started.
Yeah, so at least they kind of give us a little taste of what happened in the future. We're going to go ahead and do the rewind. So of course, it goes to 1969, 40 years earlier, and where? Hollywood, California. Sure enough, you see the beautiful, I like the old footage that they have of Hollywood and all. That's really cool. And of course, the first one who shows up is Sue Balsley. Well, there's two Sues. So we'll just call her Sue B.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just call her Sue B. We got Susie and Sue B. All right. Of course, Sue Balsley shows up on the thing. She starts talking about, she was just a high schooler. She's just doing what high schoolers do, I guess, in Minnesota.
She was in Minnesota.
Yeah, she's in Minnesota, yeah.
Was graduated from high school.
Yeah.
Got a job, paying her bills, but she decided. Oh, she had a drug of choice.
Yes, LSD, her drug of choice on the weekend. Mm-hmm. And then she mentioned that her and her girlfriend wanted to do something different. They wanted to go find themselves.
Yes, so they decided to hitchhike to California.
Yeah, that to me, that's weird.
Well, okay, so in those days, hitchhiking was super popular. I mean, it was popular to pick up hitchhikers, to hitchhike. I know many of my friends, when we were growing up, it's the same exact era, that they would hitchhike to Santa Cruz. We were in San Jose. They would hitchhike to Santa Cruz. It was over the mountains. And they would just get on the freeway on-ramp. Now is like craziness to us. But in those days, they would just stand on the ramp, and they put out their thumb, and people would stop, pick them up, and if it was only a few miles or if it was the whole way, it just depended. So these two young ladies, I'm sure, got picked up quite a bit very easily and made their way for free because you don't pay for gas.
Right. That's creepy to me. Hitchhiking nowadays?
Well, in those days, it was different. I mean, I'm sure they still had some troubles.
So this is like the modern day backpacking through Europe, but...
I guess. It's once they had a bunch of people murdered, it all stopped.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the serial killers, when they really became popular in the 80s, then it stopped.
Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, don't sign me up for that. Alrighty, so now just to let you guys know, of course, we have another character that shows up. His name is Carrie Miller. Sue and Carrie kind of pop up left and right. Of course, they're going back and forth in their conversations, kind of melding it together, guys. But we're just going to break down Sue's, and then we're just going to break down Carrie's, okay?
Now, how did Sue B get involved with the Alamo Foundation?
Well, there's a story, I guess, from what she was mentioning, is that they were on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yes.
And a flyer, and she was mentioning that she wasn't looking.
She didn't feel like she was looking for anything.
Yeah.
But then she got a flyer. She was approached, invited to come on the bus to go to the foundation. They had a church building or some sort of meeting place where they went.
How delightful. A bus ministry.
Well, you know, buses are very handy to transport many people at the same time.
I'm already sensing a theme. Alrighty, so we got a bus ministry. It was a bus to heaven. I think that's
yes,
what
it was.
Alrighty, okay. Okay, now she talks about her first experience, her first service, as they called it. She saw a bunch of young hippies, which is still, of course, 1969. Summer love is already over, but still around. People are still around. A bunch of college kids, a bunch of young kids. Now, of course, we're talking to Carrie. Now, Carrie is another character in this play. He comes from a non-religious family. His brother comes up to him one day and says, I feel he wants to serve the Lord. That's what he wants to do. Of course, that shocks him because their brothers, I think they're like a year apart or something.
Yeah, they're very close in age.
They're very close in age. He goes with his brother to this church, which is these guys. And, of course, he was looking around and he noticed that guys and gals were raising their hands, rolling their eyes. They started singing, and he noticed that his brother was doing the same thing, too.
Right, and they knew all the words of the song.
Yes, so he's feeling it. What he's saying. So he tells Susie Alamo, he was going to stick around for a semester and give it a shot. And, of course,
She just laughed like a hyena, he said, and she told him it's going to be the longest semester of your life.
And he replied, it was. Okay. So then, of course, we have another interesting character that pops up into our play here. Now, her name is, I may be saying it wrong because it's got a very interesting name. We're going to call her Christian,
yes.
Christian Coy. Now, Christian, or we'll call her Chris. Chris is the actual daughter of Sue Alamo. So she is my favorite character so far. Unfortunately, she doesn't look all that fantastic, unfortunately. She looks like she's had a very rough life, but I love her attitude about this whole thing. So I have a very big soft spot for you, Chris. Of course, she starts saying, first thing out is that she's the one who started this mess. Now, when she says that, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought she was the good one and Tony was the bad one.
So you're saying Sue Alamo was the good one.
I was under my assumption, after watching what I saw on YouTube, nothing was said about Susie. It was all about Tony. So I'm, like I said, I don't like him. So now I'm sitting there thinking, I'm sorry, what? She started this whole mess? Of course, that completely raised my eyebrows. And then when she said Tony was just extra baggage, that's where I was like, ooh. She talks about her mom about she wanted to be a movie star and something about a B-girl.
Susan Alamo came out from Arkansas, and she decided that she wanted to be a movie star. She's a very glamorous person. I think she's very attractive in what she has. She, did her hair well, makeup,
She always looked her best.
Yes, she did. That was part of her trademark. Well, she was what they called a B-girl in Hollywood. Now, a B-girl is a lady that sits at the bar and gets men to talk to her, and they buy her drinks. Well, the drink that she's having is really iced tea, and it appears that it's a drink. And, of course, the man pays the full price of the drink, and the safety is that the girl doesn't get drunk.
Ah, okay.
But it's a scam.
Gotcha.
And, Susan is looking for something and for somebody for connections to the music industry or in the movie industry. So it's her way of networking.
Right. No, I gotcha. Now, she also mentioned that her mom was a great con artist. She was an attention whore, loved to be the center of the attention.
Well, now, wait a second here. You're right, but she didn't say those words. She said that her mother, when she walked into the room, was able to get everyone there to notice her. And of course she was those words that you said, but
it's my perspective.
Okay,
I'm not going to go,
what Chris
word
said.
for word. I don't think she's going to disagree with what I think. So anyway, so she starts going into this thing called doing a church. Now, doing a church is what exactly?
Well, it appears that this is before she met Tony.
Yeah. Well, because, real quick, I have an idea, but some of it didn't make any sense to me, so that's why I'm asking you.
Well, it didn't make any sense to me, so I'm trying to piece it together.
Okay, because I just looked
from
at it
what
and
they
went,
said. Before she met Tony, it was just Chris and her mother. They needed money. Obviously, she was doing other things to try to promote her career. But what they would do to get some cash was she had a network of churches that she would go to and visit. So on Sunday evenings, they would go to a congregation, and the pastor would ask, Susan, would you give us some word? Give us some word, okay?
Right.
Chris would sing.
Right.
And then her mother would testify. And some of the testimony was that they were missionaries in Mexico and they're back up, and, you know, whatever that meant. She would just fabricate a missionary story, and she would say some scriptures, encourage the congregation, and evidently after that, they would give her an offering. Okay, let's give Sister Sue, an offering. So they would pass probably a second offering, and if everyone put $1 into the deal, it could be $50.
And then we're talking 1960s.
So
that's
because
a lot
this
of
is
money.
before Tony.
Right. That's a lot of money.
So that's the way that they picked up some cash.
Right. Okay, so then the next character that shows up is Benji Risha. Now, Benji, I know more about him. I was actually waiting for him to pop up in this whole thing, because we're pretty much, a quarter of the way through this already. And now on the thing that I watched on YouTube, he was pretty much the central mark of it, as far as the backstory regarding Tony. Now, his story is that his father, which I don't think they covered too much into it on this TV show, but what I watched was on YouTube, was that him and his mother were together. They went to this church. Of course, she had him, and the thing was that he was there's really something special about his mother and father's relationship, because his mom, I believe, was Jewish and his dad was Lebanese.
Yes.
So they were using them as the platform, as that Jewish people, Arabs can get, or no, his dad was Palestinian. That's what it was.
Okay.
And they could have a relationship, and he was basically the miracle child.
Or the peace child.
The peace child. That's what it was, peace child. So with him, he shows up. Of course, the mom, she leaves.
There was a lot of pressure, and she wanted to leave. And the mother, evidently, on this documentary said, well, she only had an opportunity to go at a certain time. So they're escaping. She's escaping. So that means there's a cultic attitude here. If you have to escape a place.
Yeah.
And she had it all set up. She was looking for
So picking him a
Benji.
daycare or something, right?
She looked for Benji, and he just so happened to be at another place at that point. She couldn't find him. She had to make that decision. She either escaped then, left him, or she would stay and be trapped. She made the decision to leave.
Yeah, because I think there was the one time where, I guess, his dad actually picked him up from daycare.
Yes.
It was the one time he never did it. It just so happened that one day, coincidentally, because during later on this episode, that he actually reconnected with his mom and got the full story in regards to this. But what he was told was that mom left and she was in hell or something like that.
Well,
They
she
made it
ended
really
up
bad.
dying, and that was it.
Yeah, she
and then
died.
Tony and Susie adopted him.
Because the dad was full in the construction of everything, so he was always busy. Something to that effect. So it's a very interesting backstory. But anyway, he shows up. He mentioned that Tony, now they're focusing mostly on Tony when it comes to Benji. Tony didn't have a consistent backstory. So he was pretty much labeled, from what you're getting, he's similar to, he's a con artist as well.
Yes, he's had gone by several different names. He changed his name several different times.
And they also mentioned that He had the Stones to say that he once promoted the Beatles.
Yes, he said that he used to be in the music industry.
Yeah, he claimed a lot of stuff. Claimed a lot of stuff. Sue's looking for someone in the music industry.
Tell them how they met.
Yeah, this is hilarious. When Chris was telling the story, laughed. He said that in her raspy voice, which I thought was awesome. Sounds like her mom was creepy, but it was still cool though. He's like, "Oh, there they are, sitting in the bar, talking to each other over a pitcher of beer that neither of them could afford to pay for," which I was like, "Oh, this is gold," right? Chris also was saying that Sue was looking for like a spearhead because they were doing churches apparently, so they needed to have a nice cover, I guess you could say.
Well, you
like
mentioned
a face to their thing.
You mentioned somebody else to put on the team.
Yeah.
And evidently, that's who she was looking for in the bar.
Right. Well, sure enough, he leans in. She's like, after talking for a while, she leans in and talks about Jesus Christ to him or something like that.
Well, yeah, she said, Jesus Christ is coming back soon.
That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she's quote unquote winning souls. I'm just kidding.
No.
Soul winning.
Over a cigarette and beer?
Yeah, right? Kind of funny, don't you think? Fast forward to a little later on, of course, they're talking about the followers, which they call Jesus children. They call them Jesus children?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so we're already, it's kind of fast forward to where Tony and him get together and they get married. And, of course, there's Tony and his rose-colored glasses. Reminds me of Jim Jones.
I want to say something about their relationship.
Huh.
It appears that she's older.
It looks like it looks like a...
She might be 10 years older or so. I don't know.
Or more.
But he was fascinated by her.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to, she had a way with words.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously had control over people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, she had...
Very charismatic.
Yes. And when you see her on her television shows, you could see how she has a commanding voice. She's very authoritative of what she's saying. She's like a pillar of strength. So he liked that about her. They was told that he didn't like women.
Yeah.
And then he met Sue at, Sue Alamo. She wasn't Alamo then. But he met her and basically changed his life.
His world.
It did.
Yeah. They start talking about the Jesus children. Now, my opinion, when I see all these kids, and of course they show the footage of them and they're, praising God and whatnot, they're narrating on some stuff, but I'm not really listening to part of it at that point because I'm just looking at the crowd. That's just why I'm always just looking, I don't want to hear what you're saying right now because I'm kind of trying to vibe on what's going on inside your church service here. They're all young kids.
Well, okay, so there
kids.
was hippies that were on Hollywood Boulevard.
Right.
And they were living wherever they could live.
Yeah, hand to mouth. Yeah.
And so they started a street ministry.
Yeah.
He was all business, she was gospel.
Yeah, yeah. So
they took the opportunity, he saw the opportunity, Chris said, to make money on this. And she knew how to do religion.
He was business, she was gospel. That's what they said. Of course, they ended up getting a place. What was it?
Okay, so they had a house
yeah.
on Highland, off of Highland and Sunset in
Right.
Hollywood. They, they were the kind of people inviting. Oh, come on, this is our service. Have anywhere to stay. Stay here. Communal
living.
And the kids liked it. They got saved. I believe that she preached the gospel.
Well, when you hear her talk and teach, it sounds pretty good.
Exactly. Now
Tony's not saying much, but she's the talker.
Yes, she is. And so they're finding new life in Christ, and they're excited, and they're getting other people's involved. Now, it appears that they had a lot of talent, a lot of musical talent there.
To me, like I said, with these kids, it looks like they were looking for parents. That's what it kind of looks like to me. They're looking for that authority in their lives.
Right, and at the time, everyone was, moving away from their states. And they were coming to California, either San Francisco, up in the Bay Area, as we noted, New York, or Los Angeles.
Right.
Because of the code violations, they were getting a lot of scrutiny. They decided, Susan said, you know what, we need to get a bigger place.
Right. Well, I know that they were mentioning that the cops were over there all the time, specifically because, there was like 120 kids living in the house.
A lot.
A 3-bedroom house. You can imagine all those people. Gets nasty. Of course, they decided to relocate. To Saugus County.
Saugus is some place that I haven't heard of for a long time. I mean, I remember it in the 70s and 80s. Saugus, it's just another place like Lancaster or Palmdale. Well, they changed their name to Canyon Country.
I've been there.
And you didn't realize you were in Saugus.
It sucked.
So Saugus, at the time, they went out to Saugus Country or Canyon Country.
Or what did the BBC guy say? Call it
Charles Manson Country.
Oh, jeez. And of course, when he said that, I'm like, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Right? So they move out to Charles Manson County.
And it was 45 minutes away from Hollywood.
Right. Now they're in this area. Now guess what they need to do? They got to make money. So they talk about how they all went out to go work menial jobs, mostly labor, picking cotton, picking grapes, doing farm work. They were talking about kind of like how the money worked. You had 200 to 300 people actually doing these day labors, and of course they had the little trick with the money.
They would have about 300 people working. They would get paid weekly. The farmers or the people who would hire them would put them on a payroll. They would give them checks for their labors, like a normal thing. Well, Tony and Susan would come out every Friday. This was reported by Carrie.
Yes.
And each person would sign their check over to Tony and Susan. Now, at the least, they would be getting about $200 a week.
Yeah, we did the math on this. Just the low end.
Yeah, this is the low end.
Because he was mentioning someone were making more than that.
Yeah, up to 500.
200 to 500 a week. Yeah, so go ahead.
So the math is about $60,000 a week, and that's in 1972 wages or money.
Yes.
We figured that out. In 1972 dollars for the year, it would be $3,120,000.
It's still a lot. That's
now
a lot
we
of money.
converted it into today's money.
Yes.
And it would be $18,900,000.
And that's on the low end.
That is on the low end.
That's everybody making $200.
Now their talk was, money doesn't buy you happiness, and you are serving God. You don't need to be paid when you serve the Lord.
Right.
So that's their justification, because they're saying, well, we provided you with food, shelter, clothing, but evidently that's up to question. We'll talk about that later.
So, of course, you have all that money coming in. Of course, what do you got to do? You got to set up a nonprofit to keep that money, because you don't want to be paying taxes on it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's talk about their living situations, those gracious living situations.
They slept 20 to 30 per room.
And my favorite part is, because of the BBC who was doing that special on them. You see all those kids. They said they're living in squalor while Tony and Sue are living quite comfortably.
They had their own nice home.
House. Then he flicks over to them in front of their house, in front of that big old huge Cadillac, and those kids are like practically shirtless and.
That's true. They had the very nice, the Cadillac. They had the nice home.
The 2-story home. It wasn't a single story. It was a 2-story home.
They had all the nice clothing.
Of course they did. So. Go a little fast forward to it. Of course, you have a bunch of people living here, 200 to 300. Of course, you're going to have kids, right? Here comes Chris again in her wonderful voice, saying that. Oh no, it wasn't. It was.
It was Sue Balsley.
It was Sue. Yeah, Sue B. So Sue B is just talking about how Susie would tell him that, look at you mothers. And of course, she mentioned you might as well put a curse word at the end of it, which I thought that was funny. But the way you mothers, you're lazy, and this, and that. And she goes on to mention that there's maggots in the.
Evidently, there was a shortage of water. Or running water.
Not in
There's
their house.
A lot of children, and they didn't have Pampers. They had cloth diapers. So with cloth diapers, you have to wash. You don't have the water. I'm not sure how this all panned out. I'm trying to figure it out, Carl. I mean, I don't understand. You either throw the diaper away,
right,
or do you put it there in case maybe one day you'll get water? Hopefully you don't put it back on the child. I'm not sure how that all worked. I really don't.
Because when she was mentioning to it, I'm like, wait a minute, what? It made no sense to me. Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure
there could have been some
their water was perfectly fine in their
there
nice
could have
house.
been some kind of editing in this TV show, but let's go on.
While they're talking about this, but they believed in them because they believed that God spoke to them, and they were mentioning that he never spoke to me, but they spoke to them and they believed it.
Yes. So the question is, Carl, why would they stay there with their children being, with no diapers, and how we know what kind of food situation was there, and all the labor? We're going on and on about that. So as we talk about it, they believe that Tony and Sue, especially Sue, was a prophet.
Yeah,
okay?
What would they say? She was
she was a
the
prophetess
and the handmaiden of God and the body of Christ on earth.
Now stop. So only Tony and Susan talked to God. God talked to them, but God never talked to the regular people.
Right.
Now this is a flaw in their Christianity.
Yeah.
Not being there, not knowing all of the teachings except for what you might see on the surface.
Right.
If you're a Christian and you're in a traditional Christian thinking, God spoke to the Old Testament people by prophets. He spoke to the New Testament by Jesus.
Right.
And then right now, believers have the Bible. Okay? They have the Bible, they have the Holy Spirit, and they have other people that can help them too, counseling.
Right.
But this doesn't appear to be like that at all. And it's kind of interesting that this woman is put so high up that she's drinking, smoking cigarettes, and later on we find out that she's abusing her own child.
Right.
It doesn't make sense that she's the body of Christ on earth. I don't know where that ever came. Is that something that maybe the Jesus children just said that, or did she ever say that?
Right. Well, no, you're correct, because it's a great question to ask. As far as I'm concerned, if you're getting paid, don't sign that check over. You kind of have a way out, I think.
I understand that, but as I say, it's not just one day this is the way you're going and another day it's a different way, and you don't understand why they can't just leave. This is part of the mind control. It's part of this psychology of it all and how humans are.
Yeah,
but you don't get it. See, that's you're saying. Why don't you just run away from it? It's not always that easy.
Well, I'm hard-headed, so I guess I can't really judge too harshly on these folks. No. But at the same time, I mean. Well, yeah, we'll get into it.
Okay.
This one frustrated me to something like, oh, really? Maybe because,
Now, remember.
Yeah, I know.
I want to tell you that in this day and age, you had these young people who were born in the 50s, and the majority were born in the 50s, out of World War II, the baby boomers. This is all baby boomer stuff. And for some reason, something clicked when, they had the hippie era, the civil unrest, all these kids doing these drugs, the whole thing. And we have all these cults that we've been talking about. They're all
on the same time.
They are all in the same time frame.
Right.
And others will be coming along as we talk about it.
Yeah, they're all in this time frame.
So I believe it's a societal problem that all these cults were able to flourish. Plus the mind control, I'm sure they had cults back in the olden days where we don't even know about them.
Right.
Okay, because we didn't have the written words down on a book about it.
Of course.
Evidently, the society was ripe for this, especially in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Well, no.
And California.
Well, no, because Carrie mentioned it, saying that mind control, it was just a huge thing for him. Because when he was mentioning his first service, he was like, she had some sort of way of getting into, which I get, but...
And even Sue Balsley said when she first got there, just having these young people like herself being that way, right. Praising the Lord and the vibrations of the music and everything.
Well, yeah, just with her, and then, further on when they're talking about her fake cancer story.
Let's go into that.
Oh, this annoyed me. Chris kind of was talking about how the story always changed a little here, a little there. Regarding the being terminally cancer for 6 years, and they show the footage of her talking about she being the miracle, that if it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for the power of the Lord, because she's a living miracle, basically.
The people in the congregation, the young people's faith and prayers are keeping her alive.
Well, yeah, because Carrie was mentioning that God used Susie as a barometer of the church. That's what they're talking about, and how the Jesus children's sins are the reason why that they were giving her cancer. So they tried super hard. She would have people. Well, this one was kind of what really sent me for a loop. Is that she would have these women pray for prayer circles and that, and while she's telling her daughter, "Hey, get ready to go," all these people are praying for her cancer, quote unquote. And of course, she's saying they're going to
Saks Fifth
Avenue, and some other store I've never heard of. I Magnum, and she's trying on all these dresses, and she's sitting there going, "We're sitting there trying on these dresses while there's other people who are just praying for her because she has cancer."
Well,
but she never
they were
had
praying and crying out to the Lord because they felt sincerely concerned about her health. She, on the other hand, was shopping, getting her clothes tailored.
Yeah, exactly. Tailored to a perfect fit, things of that nature. Now, so we're talking about Chris. We always bring up...
she's the daughter of Susan Alamo.
She's the daughter of Susan Alamo. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about Chris. I apologize. I'm talking about Carrie. Carrie, where he was talking about his perspective on everything that was going on because he became institutionalized. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he became institutionalized where he was about the work and he just kind of got caught up into it. He was more about the work part of it, and it kind of made him...
Yeah, so institutionalizing, meaning that you just follow along, you do this, you do that, you have a routine, you have you just have your group. It's a group thing. And they usually say institutionalized in prison.
Yeah.
Okay, it takes you 5 years, they'll say, to get institutionalized. Right. Or now you could be in a military situation. I mean, institutionalized is just a phrase to kind of keep you all in the same...
order of things, yeah.
In the order of things.
Of course, there's that Rolling Stone undercover reporting of Rolling Stone.
Yes.
Now, truth be told, when I saw that the first time I was watching this, I totally paused it, and I totally went online, and I totally bought that Rolling Stone magazine, so I'm waiting for it to come in. Anyway, I wanted to go ahead and share that, but go ahead and...
Tim Cahill was the reporter.
He was the reporter,
And he was told, hey, go check out this Tony and Susan Alamo Foundation. They're off in Hollywood.
Right.
And at that point, they were in Saugus, but they would go into Hollywood, pick up people that wanted to go to their services.
Yeah, because he was mentioning that he was trying to look forlorn, as he put it.
Yeah, he was forlorn, and he got approached. They said, do you want to come? Yes, I do. He went during Easter week.
Right.
He stayed there for a week.
Yeah.
He said that's when, he reported on very close quarters, you couldn't take a shower. It wasn't very
sanitary.
Correct. But he was intrigued by what Sue Alamo was saying. She was a good speaker. Everyone praising the Lord. He really didn't see anything negative. But of course he said that they were all trying to put on a good front for him. And then Chris said that, oh yeah, we were really good actors.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was Sue Bosley.
It was Sue. Yeah, she mentioned that they were good actors, and they showed that photo of the outside people talking to the new people, and there's Sue just staring at them like that to make sure that they were doing their acting correctly. And,
right, and this is the love bombing that comes with cults.
Right.
Everything's great, come on in, and then you find out after you're sucked in, oh wait, what happened? He did write an article. He didn't really uncover a lot of the...
Well, what we'll do is later on in the wrap-up show, we'll probably talk about the news articles that I got. So, anyway. So, of course, now we're going to talk about the TV show. When they show on the TV screen, both Susan and Tony come up, it's very clear to me that someone is much older than the other. And I'm not talking about Tony. Because for some reason, when they're on TV screen, it shows some serious age gap between the two.
Well, we looked up their birthdays.
Yeah, there was Tony's 9 years younger.
Yeah, but it doesn't appear that on the screen.
No, it looks like there's a 15. We agreed it was like a 15-year gap.
But I have a feeling, I have a theory on that, Carl. She was a smoker and a drinker.
Ooh, yeah, nothing like a, what was it, unfiltered Camel.
I was going to say Camel. But she might have done menthols. You never know.
For my fresh breath. You know what's funny about that TV show? Another thing real quick before you get into it, is that have you noticed that when he said, well, my God is great, and da-da-da-da, he's like, yes, our God is great. You know how they had that little cutoff thing where it's like, if my God, well, it's our God, but okay. Kind of like a little snafu, because when she says, it's like, oh, my God is great. It's like, yeah, our God is great. Thank you, Susan. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the TV show, for those days, I think we decided it was the late 70s.
It looks like it. It definitely looks like it.
And they had their nice gowns on. All the men were dressed up in their suits, and really, their hair was nicely coiffed. I was going to say that. Coiffed?
I think it's coiffed.
Okay. And they were singing and did lots of talent with all the brass instruments.
A lot of brass instruments.
Singing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Tony's illustrious, glorious singing.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange. And also the musical numbers, some of them were real churchy.
Yeah.
And others were so countrified.
Yeah.
And not only that...
And they're filming it in Hollywood. That's the funnier part.
Well, I'm not sure. I think they did that at the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, that's right. It was in Tennessee. It was at the Grand
So
Ole
maybe
Opry.
it was just the vibes coming off of the walls. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but sure had that. Well, because like I was saying, he looks like Kanye Twitty or Fat Elvis, one of the two.
I think he was he was an okay singer,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if he didn't...
he carried a tune. I'm not saying...
Correct.
He at least was kind of like, man, the music definitely sticks out more than you're singing, my man. Just letting you know, but A for effort. A for effort.
He would never make it in the regular professional world
but
of singing.
In his mind, he's like, that's right, I'm a rock star.
Hey.
Take that, Elvis. Haha. I'm just... It was so bad. I'm sorry. It was just like, ooh, don't...
Well, yeah, it was.
Anyway,
it was kind of corny because it was
It's the 70s.
Yes, and it was very.
It's very different. Very different. Very different. But no, I mean, for the time of it was very impressive. They also did testimonials.
Oh yeah, the testimonials.
Yeah, they seemed rushed, but it makes sense because
they're paying for
they're
time.
Paying for time. It's like what. 1.5 hour. It's like, dude, can't you say 30 minutes? But okay, it's just different language for an hour and a half. Wait, what? Oh, 1.5 hour. Okay.
I think that's the terminology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, an hour and a half of this? Ooh, brutal.
But the girls went on, and they were just telling their testimonies. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I was like
boom.
one after another after another, and there's Susan, tell me about your fun at the ranch. Oh no, that was when they had the family. Remember they had the little girl on there?
Yes, that was a different show. We'll talk about it later.
Fast forward on that one. Blew it.
That's
Good job,
okay.
pal. You're welcome. But no, they did have they did have that family though. They were on there multiple times, but this was the first time they were on it when, I guess, was it the dad was a heroin addict?
Yes.
And then they had the mom and dad on there. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, anyone who was a friend of the ministry. Well, it was a friend of the ministry, not necessarily part of the ministry. Yeah, not part of it, but
they were friendly towards it. They were thankful that their relative had found the Lord and was sober and doing well.
I mean, honestly, that was a kind of a nice piece. It was a nice piece to watch because there is the dad who was the heroin addict who's clean and sober, and the mom's very happy and very joyful that it's the first time she had a conversation with her son, with like a real conversation with her son for a long time. It was really nice. But still, for that time, it was, for lack of a better term, it was a successful show for what it looks like.
Yeah, Carrie, he mentioned about the show appeared that families were getting together, but he said that there were separation of families.
Yeah, he was mentioning about it. He wanted to spend time with his brother, but he found out that he actually barely spent time with his brother at all.
So if you were family members in the organization... Mm-hmm. They would be separated. If you were external family members that were against the organization, then they would be shunned.
Yeah.
The only outsiders had to be very supportive.
Right. So yeah, let's also talk about speaking with the families. There's a lot of kids in this one. There's a lot of kids in this group because it's over 300 people.
The kids were the 24 of them that were around the same age.
Yeah, around the same age. Sue was very big on discipline. That you kind of get, not just with the adults, but definitely with the children. I think her mantra or her thing was, when your kids are too big enough to spank, you slap them across the face.
Yeah, that's what her daughter said.
Yeah, was it Christian?
Oh, no, it wasn't Christian. It was Sue B.
It was Sue B. Yeah, it was Sue B. There's also, Christian was talking about the discipline room. Was it Christian who was talking about the discipline room at the back behind the church?
Well, there was a discipline room, and that would be in Saugus they were talking about.
Yeah,
there was a little room where they were to beat the devil out of the kids.
Because they were demon-possessed or something like that. Because they were
That's what the theory was in their belief system.
Yeah, so I guess because Christine was saying that she had 2 daughters, she didn't want them near her children, which is pretty sad because that's grandma and grandpa, technically.
Yes.
The kids would be taken into this room with Sue and Tony, and from my understanding, the parents would watch while they would get beat.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who beat whom, but it didn't matter because the instructions were all... I don't know if Sue or Tony actually did the physical beating. They always had others do the beating.
Yeah.
And they would say, make sure you put your weight into it.
Yeah, because because I guess the thing was, if you didn't do it hard enough, or if you didn't, do it like you meant
to their satisfaction,
then God would be displeased with you, and then, there's some sort of guilt or something like
Correct.
that. So, Christian says, I'm done. I'm out. She talks about how she goes and talks to her mom about it. Strike 1, don't ever do that. If you're going to leave, just bounce.
Well, she, went there and she said, she tells her mother, I'm leaving. And her mother says, if you leave, I will kill you. Okay?
Yeah. That's nice to say, isn't it?
You know too much, Chris.
Yeah, that's what it was. You know too much. Because that's basically admitting to her daughter that this is all sham.
Well, the daughter would know for sure because she was there before it even started.
That's right. She was part of the thing. She was part of the scam in the first place.
Yes, when they would go do the churches.
Doing the churches.
Mm-hmm.
I guess after that conversation, she goes downstairs downstairs.
Chris
wherever.
does, right?
Yeah, Christine goes downstairs. She's packing things up, whatever she can find for the kids. And I guess the door was closed, and how did they put it? The
foundation.
The men from the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Some men from the foundation kicked in the door. I guess they beat her down.
Yes.
And I don't mean like just, they beat her. They jumped her. Even Sue jumped in on this one.
Well, Sue came in and started to pull her hair and claw at her face.
Clawed her face. And then she said something else too. Says like, I warned you or something like that. Can't remember. I told you. Something to that effect.
Yeah, I told you so.
Yeah, I told you so. After she wakes up from the beating, which I'm like, oh, that's lovely. I think she's like laughing about it, thinking it took 3 or 4 guys or whatever to beat her down. It didn't work. I guess she called the cops. Like somehow she had one of the children with her, one of her daughters. The cops came. Obviously, cops came and got her, obviously, and took her to the station. And
because she couldn't take both kids because the father of the youngest child, was still on the compound.
Right. So I guess he had her. They entered the police station. I guess she was saying that the phone was ringing and the what's the guy who usually is the shift manager or whatever? What do they call it? The desk. Anyway, the phone call rang and said the phone's for her.
Yes.
And I guess they made a deal. Said, hey, if you don't sign anything or press charges, whatnot, we'll let you have the other baby. And of course, the good thing is kudos to Christine that she admits it. She's like, oh, if you were in my position, you would have done the same thing.
Well, she was a true mother who loved her kids. She just wanted to get out of there.
She just wanted to get her and her daughters and get out. Yeah, so she struck the deal. She was driven back. She got the kids, and she left.
Correct. And then she was out. And I think that was before they moved to Arkansas.
That was because Carrie was mentioning that they did a snub piece on her or talking...
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, they would have to, once she left, they would have to discredit Chris.
Yeah, so he was mentioning that they were, saying she's going to hell and all that kind of stuff, so using her as an example.
Well, once you go back out into the world...
Yeah, going to hell.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I never did... hear the exact teaching on all of that, how if you leave them or any of that, you're always constantly going to hell. That just eliminates Jesus Christ all the way out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how they reckoned that.
Maybe
we'll find out later.
Maybe. So after Christine leaves, of course, they're exited from Saugus. Because there's a few things, the reason why they left. Okay, I just drew a blank. What was it?
Well, the reason they left was because evidently, according to Susie, God supernaturally came and told her to go back to the Bible Belt in Arkansas.
Where she got her first vision or something like that.
Yes, she had her first vision there. She also knew about Arkansas. It was where the gospel was strong.
Yeah, she mentioned that in the TV show.
Yes.
And then, of course, she's saying that Arkansas was like the promised land. The real one was because there was less scrutiny from the government.
And less regulation. Because
much less regulation.
The state of California they were suspecting the free labor.
Yeah, they were investigating on where all the money was coming from. Mm-hmm. Because, they were talking about in that news reel where that British guy noticed that the Jesus children were living in squalor, where Tony and Sue were living in this really nice house. So once that comes out, it's time to figure it out.
So the neat thing about what they did was they went to Arkansas, and their I-40 that goes all the way across the United States, there was a little break in it. It is near Dyer, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Now they decided on that because it was in a tri-state area. There's Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And anytime they felt that something might be going south, meaning that it's not going well, they could just jump state
lines real quick. Yeah.
So they ended up setting up a bunch of businesses.
Yeah.
They had a grocery store, a gas station, a restaurant, and later on a trucking company.
Very lucrative trucking company.
Now, all of these people that worked in these businesses were not paid.
No.
They were volunteers.
The quote-unquote volunteer labor. And I guess when they were talking about talking to Tony about it, he was mentioning they was taking a loss every year and all that kind of stuff. And technically, since, the foundation provides for all their needs, and I guess the story was that their needs are provided, so there's no point in, serving God is the work. I think something to that effect.
Yes, something to that effect. Well, when you do have a 501c3, which is the nonprofit status that they had, people work for nonprofits, and they actually get paid. Like, for instance, if you were to work for the food bank nearby, there are volunteers, but they only do, a few hours, and then they go home.
Yeah.
But a 40-hour week, no, they do not volunteer 40 hours. They get a paycheck.
Yes, they do.
Because that's the law.
Yeah. So, of course, when they're there, they need a place to stay. They set up a place called the Georgia Ridge. Now, that's their compound. Now, Georgia Ridge, the way they set it up, or how Carrie's explained it, there's 2 entryway points, I guess. There's 2 ways in.
Kind of reminds me of one way in, one way out.
2 men enter, 1 man leave. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's 2 entryways, and of course, there were guards 24/7. You were never alone, never allowed to have alone time. Always doing Bible studies, always reading your Bible with another person, or you're listening to, I guess you were saying, like recordings and stuff.
This kind of sounds familiar, Carl.
Yeah, very Jim Jonesy.
Yeah, just like when they were in Jonestown.
Yep. And also, don't remember, Tony's wearing them beautiful rose-colored glasses, too.
You know what? In that respect, I think that was sort of the style.
You think? I don't think so.
Well, think of Elvis.
He didn't wear those glasses.
Well, I don't know. We might need to look on Google Images to see.
Because you see Jim Jones there. David Koresh, I think, wore those things too.
I don't know. It's kind of an interesting theory.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know somebody go, why are they the same? Because they both have the same look.
But it was around the same time.
Era. Just like, oh, wow, rose-colored glasses. Shocked? No. But you're probably right. Probably was a style in the 70s. But yeah, so they were always alone and all that kind of stuff. So now I guess Tony and Susan used the kids to keep the parents in the ministry. We're talking about the 24 kids specifically.
The 24 kids, okay.
Yeah. Now, also the culture with that, wanting to keep the kids there, is there was that tattletale culture.
Yes, it's the reporting culture. So the kids would report on their parents, the parents on their kids, the kids on the kids, the adults on the adults. It's a typical cult
move?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we know other cults that use that same
mentality.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, because also too, they were mentioning that they did that because they didn't want to go to hell. So the fear.
Yeah, I don't understand that yet. We're going to have to get to the bottom of that
and
explain
sure
it.
They will probably.
I want to get that explained why they felt that way.
No, it's a great question to ask. During this time, this is where the spankings / beatings.
Yeah, they were more than spankings.
Yeah, started to come into play, and now this is the end of the episode that they end it with this phrase, where it says, "First they broke your mind, then your soul, and now it's time to break your body." And then done. So, whew. Episode 1.
Yeah. I believe episode 2 is going to ramp up a bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Not, like, my curiosity wants to see it, but it goes to that point where I'm in my brain now. It's like, okay, there's got to be a point to where, like, for example, when we talk about the other belief systems, mm-hmm. there's like a slow kind of, slow pain, little things come in, and then, but this right here is like from one extreme to another kind of thing.
Yes.
That's the kind of vibe I'm getting. It's just like everything was great, and the next thing you know, switch went on. And then...
Yes, and I think we're going to find out what that switch is. What happens as we go along in the timeline, and... This one is very troubling.
It's disturbing, actually. It's disturbing, but like I said, we'll
have time to talk about that.
Plenty of more questions after the second episode, I'm pretty sure. So, all right, on that, once again, thank you for listening to us, guys. Give us 5 stars. Let us know what you think. You know how to reach us. And on that note, good night, Holly.
Good night, Carl.